I am Danny Otto. Welcome into another episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episode 6 of The Last of Us series. So if you haven't seen that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to HBO Max, check that out, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
Joining with me to break down everything from episode 6 of The Last of Us series, it's Jon Jon Rico!
Hey! What's up?
So much.
All the things.
All the things happening all the time.
At once.
Everything all at once.
All at once, yeah.
So, motherfucking Last of Us. I feel like so we're recapping so many things at the same time, and we have so many plates spinning of things that we want to be recapping at the same time. Every time we log in and are recording a recap, I have to switch my brain, and it's basically just me switching the thing that I have next to me that kind of corresponds with what we're talking about. I realize this is Groot; it has nothing to do with Last of Us, but I kind of think of it as a living thing that could infect everyone. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, so I have to switch my brain because we got Mando, we've got Bad Batch, we've got Last of Us, we've got Ant-Man. We still want it. There's so many
things. Yeah. Good time. A good problem to have for sure.
I know, absolutely. I'm not complaining about that. It's just if anyone ever sees me think about what we're doing for a split second, that's the reason. But anyway, Last of Us episode 6. Very solid episode. I know there's plenty of things that both of us want to kind of touch on with this episode, but the biggest thing that I have to say just right off the bat is reunited, and it feels so good. We finally got Joel reuniting with his brother after all of this time. The last time they saw each other, that we've seen that they've saw each other, was episode 1, basically. And the amount of time that's passed, I'm sure they've seen each other since, in between there. But the last time we've seen them kind of on screen together is episode 1, which is a very long time at this point.
Yeah.
And I think it was worth the wait. We got a lot of really cool interaction. I don't know, cool might not be the best word for it, but we got a lot of important interactions, I guess, brother to brother, and kind of just, even Ellie kind of, seeing, I guess, some of Joel's past through his brother and stuff like that. And it was also really cool to kind of see the community that his brother is now a part of, and kind of, just seeing the life that he has started to build for himself, that, had this, insane apocalypse not happened, that kind of would have been kind of a life that Joel would have had. You know what I mean? A family and kind of, just doing a normal job and kind of living, an everyday life type of thing. And it kind of seems like that is where his brother has kind of started, and almost to an extent, almost kind of modeled his life now after kind of what he had kind of seen Joel building his life pre-apocalypse, basically, type of thing, with a family and a society and stuff like that. But yeah, I could go on and on and on, and I'm sure we will in big takeaways. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions for episode 6?
Yeah, this was a really, I would say, an important episode for character development, especially when it comes to Joel. Obviously, the reunion with Tommy is really big for him. But first of all, I just gotta say, this show is a perfect example of why you don't need, or this episode is a perfect example of why you don't need any type of infected to make an impactful story in this world. Kind of like episode 3 and Bill and Frank, even though we got a little glimpses of them here and there, but the fact that they're just a part of the world and they show up when it's necessary to the story and not just to have him there as like some kind of adversary that you're just shooting bullets at every single episode. Really makes the impact of them like even more significant when they do show up. Um, but this episode is really a great showcase of just how well the character development is within the writing of the series and the game itself. Obviously, like we finally get to Jackson, where of course you say he's living a pretty good life out there with the people. They have a nice little establishment and they have power. They have like it's basically a fully functioning town, which is
Yeah.
really cool. Like, it's really cool to see Ellie kind of experience that kind of like essentially a glimpse into what used to be because a town like this in Wyoming is it just everything was just kind of normal for them. They're getting their food out from the land and they can sustain themselves in this little area. First of all, I love the opening scene with the kind of the native couple that they're at the cabin to. They take their rabbits, but those two characters were fantastic. I believe one of them is like an Oscar nominated actor from Dances with Wolves. So
Oh wow.
kind of a cool, yeah. That was really cool to see. But seeing those characters interact each other with Joel and Elliot first, and just kind of like they're just kind of calm there. They're in their land, like that's the whole thing about that area, like that like Midwest vibe, right? Like, yeah, this is our land. It's snowing here, so you're not really seeing a lot of affected anyway. It seems like, but um, yeah, but really, the showcase for Joel in this episode, I think, was the most significant of all, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. But um, Ellie getting to learn a little bit more about his past through Tommy's wife, I forget her name. Um, that was a pretty big reveal for her, of course, that she finally learns about Sarah, and and that all culminates in the phenomenal argument between Joel and Ellie at the end of the episode, which is, of course, one of the bigger scenes from the game. Um, but yeah, just establishing that bond between them and what we know it's going to grow into later on in the story is and starting to see the seeds of that even more so. Like, we're getting glimpses at little pieces of it in past episodes, but I think this is probably one of the strongest displays of it so far uh, to this point, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And yeah, I did love the beginning, the opening scene with them in the cabin,
Yeah,
with the older couple and stuff like that. It was it was a very just like, they're very relaxed about the whole thing and they're just like, well, okay. Like you gave them food? Yeah.
yeah,
It's just like one of those things. But yeah, it was a great episode. And just like you said, I mean, we've said this on and on about pretty much every episode. It's just the character development and the writing in general is just phenomenal. Every episode. No matter what it is. I mean, even when like, an episode with like Bill and Frank, like that, like such a like minor character in the video game, and they with the writing that they have, they expanded on this character and made it into such an amazing story that they gave us all in one episode. And just like I feel like every episode has been really, really phenomenal character writing and story building type of thing. And so, just like you said, I think I totally agree with you. This was definitely a Joel development episode and really good in general. So,
Mhm.
you want to get to some big takeaways?
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right. So I'm gonna kick this off with big takeaways. Normally I will kick off our recap episodes with some sort of pop culture reference or something that I thought of that just made me chuckle during the episode because these episodes are so emotional. Like they're amazing, like incredibly written and everything like that, but they're all very heavy. And I mean, any show that you're dealing with, post-apocalyptic wasteland and just trying to survive and stuff like that are going to be heavy. So my brain goes to how can we make something funny? and I'm jumping way to the end, and I apologize. Usually I wouldn't want to do this. This is why I didn't open with this, and I'm doing it in big takeaways because at least it's part of the way through our recap video. I'm jumping to the very end, and that is where they're searching for the Fireflies they've been given the tip that they're somewhere was a college, a community college, or college, and so they go there trying to search for them, and then they're searching for clues when they figure out they're not there anymore. They're searching for clues of where they might be next, type of thing. And while they're there, they get another party of raiders basically there, and there's a quick fight. They're trying to get out of there, and Joel is hand-to-hand combat with a couple of them, and all of a sudden Ellie looks at him, and he looks down, and he's got a pipe, something stabbed into his gut.
Bat. Yeah.
Yes.
Piece of the bat that guy
stabbed into him. The only thing I think of is, and I asked you already if you've seen this show, but I'm going to ask it just for effect. Have you ever seen the show Happy Endings? Oh, okay. It's a very funny show. Has a lot of really funny people in it, but there's this one, I believe it's the season 2 opener.
You stabbed me, dude! I stabbed you, dude! You stabbed me, dude! I stabbed you, dude!
Immediately, that's what I thought of, type of thing. I have no idea why. It just popped into my head, and I had to. But what I didn't understand is Joel is, normally pretty smart about things. Like, I understand, like, there are some things that Joel can't control, like, with his hearing loss and stuff like that. So sometimes, just like we saw, people have snuck up on him while he's asleep. If like his ear that has hearing loss in it is the one that's, closest to where they're walking, type of thing. But I would think that Joel of all people would know, hey, probably not a good idea to remove the jagged object that has been stabbed into my torso.
Oh, shit. When did I get stabbed?
Really? Like, isn't that the advice? Like, when you get something stabbed into you, isn't it like leave it there until like someone else can properly medically help you take it out? Like, I understand there's no one medically that's going to help you take it out, but still, get on the horse and get away. Like, before you do that, like, there's still like other raiders there, right?
I think so, yeah.
I can't be the only one. I can't be the only one who had that thought of like, why did you take it out immediately? Like, get on the horse with Ellie, start getting out of there, and then like go. Like, then go ahead, go nuts. Like, figure it out, or even like try to find some medical supplies so that when you take it out, like, you've got some like leaves, gauze, anything that like can stop the bleeding. He just takes it right out. But anyway, it's not a complaint against the episode at all. It's entirely just me digging at a fictional character in the episode as to why he did that. And I guess like it's just a moment decision, and you're just like immediate like, oh, that's not supposed to be in there, and just like take it. I guess I have not been stabbed in the gut, so I can't say that I've been in that situation.
Yeah,
but
don't knock it till you try it.
I know.
Yeah.
But anyway. Rico, what were some of your takeaways from this episode? How are you going to follow that up?
Dude, I don't know. But I want to talk more about Joel's arc in this episode. It's again a really important one for him. That probably the biggest kind of growth he's had as a character up until this point. When we are at the beginning of the episode, he's the woman in the cabin kind of points out that she can see that Joel's scared. It's because Ellie's trying to kind of portray that she's not scared. She's putting on that kind of front, right? Like just put on a brave face and do it. But Joel's mastered that completely. But he's just really good at suppressing all the fear and the emotion that he's kind of put aside for Ellie. But that's all starting to come to the surface now with everything that's gone on. At this point, he's lost so many people, from Sarah to Tess, Bill and Frank, who were friends of his. Before that point, he didn't know if he had lost Tommy. So getting that reunion with him was also huge because it, again, helps those emotions come to the surface and then kind of makes him realize what there is to live for, like Ellie. There's some pretty powerful moments in the episode where he thinks he sees Sarah in the town, and it ends up just being a mother and a daughter, but she's got the same hair as Sarah in the back. And that moment where he kind of just has that, you can see in his face, like he thinks it's her for a little bit. And but then when he sees it's not her, it's just kind of like that reality hits him. But he's having like these little panic attacks because he doesn't realize like it's that fear, and it's his age, it's the stress of it. But
Yep.
All that's coming up to it, like it's a boiling point right now for him. And it all kind of eventually leads to the scene between him and Tommy where he just breaks down and he's like, I can't do this anymore. I need you to take her to, I think it was Colorado or whatever, and just do the rest of this for me. Like, I just can't do this anymore. And again, that Ellie overhears that, and then that leads to that their whole argument. You don't know what loss is, and that's where you find out there's so much more alike than they realize. Like she's lost people up to that point. He's lost people up to that point, and they've just been channeling it different ways. Where it's like she's and at the end when she decides like, okay, you're gonna make your choice, and she goes, okay, come on, let's go. Like, no, I've made my choice a long time ago. Like, you're doing this together. Like, everyone's left me, you're not leaving me. And he's like, I can't do this, but I have to do this. Like now he wants to do it. So just kind of seeing Joel's human side really kind of push through the surface again, and Pedro Pascal putting in that amazing performance was a real highlight of this episode. And of course it leads to him to getting stabbed, and so it's like, dang, that sucks. So he has like this really cool emotional roller coaster of an arc, and then physically, boom, takes one right in the gut.
Right in the gut.
Right in the gut. But yeah, and it leads to a great thing with Ellie too. Ellie's performance in this is really awesome too, because she gets to experience life as like a regular kid in a town for a little bit. And then right at the end, like, she has to make the decision, like, okay, I'm not leaving Joel. And then boom, end of the episode, like, falls off the horse. Where just get this nice little beautiful shot of him on the ground in the snow, and then you cut into the credits, and you're just like, dang, like that's just like a real downer of a note to end it on. But it sets up the stage for some pretty good storytelling later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And yeah, you know what? Just as you were kind of, bringing us through all of the events that kind of happened in this, arc of an episode, I really, really wonder, and this is just me like playing like, multiverse, parallel universe, whatever, how those events would have went had Tommy just taken Ellie. Like, what would have happened and how that would have played out. And, like, I'm really wondering how, because I mean, we don't know. Like, Tommy might have made a different decision and it might have got him completely killed. And then Joel would have to live with that kind of guilt. And then, like, what happens to Ellie? And because, I mean, there's just so many, like, a ripple effect type of thing. Like, we can always say, like, there's a ripple effect with any choice that anyone makes ever type of thing. And I was just kind of thinking about, like, how that might have been different. Because, I mean, up until like that morning, it was kind of like, Tommy had kind of already said, all right, I'm going to have to do this type of thing. So I'm just kind of, just interested in how that would have played out differently type of thing.
Yeah. It's an interesting scenario for sure. I think it's really just about the fact that I think Tommy just wouldn't have known that, like, the best thing to do for Ellie, because they just don't know each other that well. So, I mean, you establish that bond going across the country like that, and how you just gonna start putting your trust into somebody else in this world where you're not supposed to trust anybody.
Right. And that leads back to exactly, and we're gonna get to predictions really quick, but there was one thing that I was going to say when we were doing like instant reactions and stuff like that. In the same way that you were saying, like, you really don't need to have the infected to have a really good story told in like these episodes, and to really have a good arc and to really have a good development and stuff like that. And that's, kind of what started to happen with the Walking Dead series. It started to become, people living in this situation where the constant was zombies and the constant was infected things and dealing with that every day. But also it came into this, who do you trust? Are you trusting the wrong people? And it became like the people are the most dangerous part of living in the apocalypse type of thing. And it's kind of almost, it's very similar in that kind of aspect, where you really do have to pick and choose very wisely on who you put your trust and who you put your faith into throughout every part of The Last of Us, basically. And last thing I'll say before we get to predictions is what's really cool is we got to see, so Ellie got thrown onto Joel, and he, from the very beginning, he didn't want to do it. Tess wanted to do it. And then, Tess basically sacrificed herself. And so he continued to bring Ellie along as like a promise to Tess, like a final promise to Tess. But just like you said, this episode is really where is that major turning point where now he has chosen that Ellie is important enough to risk whatever's going to happen next for him, basically. So that is a major turning point in Joel's character development. And it's no longer him just bringing Ellie along as a promise to somebody else or a means to an end type of thing. He has now consciously made a decision that he is going to help her until the journey's over, type of thing. So it's really cool to kind of see that right there, like that development really quick, like right there, type of thing. So I just wanted to point that out. But you want to do some predictions?
Sure.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick us off? And I know. We always say this, we don't want to point out exactly what we think is going to happen next because we're following a video game. So we kind of know the key events that are going to happen. But Rico, what are some of your predictions for the upcoming episodes?
Yeah. And to also add to the fact that we are recording this a little behind, so we have actually seen following episodes. So we're talking about the fact that this section was a little bit weird to do just based on the fact that we've already seen what could be predicted off of this. But
I know, right?
But obviously, just that bond of Joel and Ellie is really still the driving point of the story, and that still has a huge culmination point. If that's a good term to say, if that's even like an accurate term to use, but there is a point in the story where this will culminate in a pretty big moment. Still, like we've seen the bond start to really, they're like this now, like they're interlocked.
Yeah.
They're like this before, now they're interlocked like this, and we're gonna see that kind of start to twist itself more and more and more and more. That bond's gonna get tighter and tighter, and it's gonna be beautiful to watch. More character growth for Ellie coming up. Which is always great. But yeah, the way that the show is just kind of sailing through the first game in a good way. I mean, I always knew that this was going to cover the whole first game because they don't know they're going to get a second season. They don't know if this is going to be success. So you put the whole story in there. You tell the whole first story at least once. So if you do get just one season, you got that story.
Yeah.
So can't wait to really see this wrap up. Really, I'm trying to remember at what point in the game this was in. It's a really minor moment, but it's a really significant moment in the game for me. And I think it actually might have happened during this part of the story is when they're going through, I think, the college or something like that. And they hit this one point because this whole game is just tension and stress and tears and everything. But then there's this one beautiful moment and where you approach this hole in the wall and you see a bunch of giraffes out in the the open.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite moments in the entire game. And I was hoping we were going to see a moment like that, but I'm not 100% sure we will now. But that is a moment from the games I really kind of wish we could see in this show for sure. Because I watched that back on YouTube a few days ago, and I was like, yeah, I forgot how literally peaceful this whole scene was, and I didn't want to leave that moment in the game because as soon as I did, I know I'm right back in the suck of all of it, and it's just so I think that's kind of with the whole college area where the monkeys and stuff like that were in the thing. I think that all kind of played into this one little part here, and I really hope we get a good little guitar number from Joel at some point. Yeah. Well, those are my things I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, we spoiler alert, we have watched ahead a few episodes. I mean, it's no surprise. I went on vacation. I got to visit Rico in person, but we did have to take a break from recapping a little bit, so we are a little bit behind. So we do know exactly kind of what happens, but just going off of if we're going to keep it constant, just going off of the tease at the end of this episode. Obviously, Joel's been stabbed. Ellie has to try to deal with that, but in dealing with that, we get an episode. The next episode 7, is centric on Ellie's backstory, and seeing a glimpse into, exactly like what you were saying, like how Joel and Ellie are more alike than either one of them really understands that they are, type of thing, because we see, a relationship that Ellie,
kind of what makes her who she is.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, it's just what we both said, the effort that goes into the storytelling and the character building in this series is incredible. And it really is a really great thing to be able to kind of flesh this out, I guess, per episode type of thing. And that's kind of what I'm really looking forward to, because we ultimately, both of us ultimately know it's not going to be a happy ending. But just like what you're looking forward to, yeah, moments of peace like that are awesome. Moments that, we can see Joel and Ellie kind of, grow closer together, like we've seen in some of the newer episodes and stuff like that. It might come from tragic events that kind of pushes them a little bit closer together, but just being able to see them, that bond form, like you were saying, from start to, you know, where we are now is really interesting to see. And I really like to see that play out. And that's kind of what I look forward to in a series that is ultimately tragic and ultimately all very heavy events. Like the major events are all tragic and heavy. So it's not like we're getting like super happy stuff coming up, guys. But just like those momentary like peaceful moments, or the momentary moment, like things that kind of lead them, you know, closer together as a team, I guess, really, are the things that I kind of look forward to. And especially like the really awesome character building and stuff like that, that we've, you know, got every single episode. I mean, holy shit, this series is good. Like,
Oh yeah.
but anyway, like we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 6? And what do you think's going to happen next? Have you been watching ahead like us? But anyway, and as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.